Good morning. Everyone can say good morning back. That's okay. I know you're all hungover. That's fine. Thank you for those that came out. I know it's early, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. I am David Nage. I run our venture fund at ARCA. ARCA has been around now for over 4 years as an investor in digital assets. And in regards to gaming, with regards to venture, we were one of the first investors in Axie Infinity about 2 years ago. So we have had the privilege of seeing front row seats to everything that's happened with Web3 gaming. And so it's my belief that based off of some of the data and some of the things I'll show you today, that over the course of the next few years with Web3 gaming, that we'll reach 100 million users relatively soon. Again, a disclaimer, because we're all about legal regulation things right now. None of this is obviously for investment purposes. This is educational. So, I like to make this interactive, and obviously I can't see very well because there's lights shining in my eyes right now, but how many of you remember Pong? Okay. How many of you have ever played Pong? Okay. I really love spending time having historical perspective. I've spent years educating institutional investors about digital assets, about Bitcoin, about Ethereum. And so what I have found is having historical perspective is really important when you talk and you try to educate. I've held conferences. One of them was called FO256, which has been running since 2018. I've also hosted my podcast called Base Layer, which has been running now for over 3 years with about 250 founders. Perspective is key. With gaming, as you see highlighted here, I talk about Pong to Fortnite. Over 50 years of gaming has arrived since the days of Pong with a simple pad where you basically hit a ball back and forth. And then all of a sudden to today, we have 3 billion gamers around the world. What has happened in that time? In 1983, as you see, we had Nintendo with their 8-bit consoles. Anyone still have a Nintendo 8-bit console and NES? Raise a hand. I do. I love those things. And then in 94, we had the Xbox and the PlayStation. Little known in 1985, though, when after about 2 years that the NES came out, Super Mario Brothers sold roughly 40 million copies in 1985. So again, you had 1972 to 1985, and then all of a sudden you had a breakout with Super Mario Brothers. But in 1975, if you look back further, the Pong actually came out for home purchases, and 175,000 roughly were sold in 1975. Again, looking at the timescales of adoption are really important when you think about things like this. This is Hunter Coin to Axie. Has anyone here played Hunter Coin? Raise a hand. Let it be known that if anyone is watching this, no one has raised their hand, which is really, really surprising. Hunter Coin was one of the first blockchain-based games. It was Hunter Coin in 2014, it was Gambit, and a number of other different releases at that point in time. Not many people played it. You had to be very, very specific. You had to know a lot of things about Bitcoin, about L1s, about the blockchain infrastructure to be able to play it. This has been the problem with the first kind of iteration of blockchain-based gaming within the ecosystem, is that it is obtuse, it is confusing. You have to link to wallets. There's a lot of things that have to go on before you can actually play it. What happened as you start to evolve is in 2017, you had CryptoKitties. All of a sudden now you had the world of NFTs come in where you saw them not just as collectibles, but something more, as a wrapper of value. Obviously, kitties, punks, Bored Apes, these are all things that we are now becoming accustomed to, but beyond that, you have to look and see, what is it? And in my opinion, I think what others will start to see is a wrapper of value, something that actually has value, they can transport, you can move around. And again, that is one of the advantages of digital assets. In 2018, we saw the introduction of Axie, using everything that's happened from Hunter Coin to CryptoKitties, and then emerging into a new ecosystem where you actually had a game that was built in Unity, was built in game development engines that were much more custom today, things that Call of Duty and Fortnite are using that build beautiful, stylized games, not what Hunter Coin was in 2014, which, if you know, back in the days of, say, like the Atari 2600, was very similar to, say, Donkey Kong. It was not very stylistic. It wasn't really that easy to use. And we have seen this evolution. Now today, albeit obviously things have changed a little bit over the last few months, but as of today, we have roughly about 3 million users of digital asset Web3 games right now. Now, Axie obviously, rose tremendously throughout last year to roughly about 3 million plus daily active users. But what we've seen through that is that there are people around the world that benefit from these games. Why is that? Well, what we're seeing right now is that these games are evolving. As you see here, there are 2 pictures of 2 different games that are in their first stages of coming out. One of them is Illuvium. The other one is called Dissolution. These are games that designers are now using Unity, they're using Unreal, UE5, UE4. These are stylized games that if anyone has played Fortnite, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, any of those games out there, they are much more accustomed to. The evolution is starting to happen. Again, if you go back to my slides here with Pong, 50 years from Pong to having 3 billion gamers today. It took 50 years. Again, if you look back, HunterCoin was 2014. We're in 2022 now. That's 8 years of evolution. Again, you have to look at timescales. And so Web3 gaming, if you look at it, from the infrastructure side of things, there are roughly 30 million monthly active users of MetaMask today. This has changed dramatically over the last few months, about 42% rise from 21 million monthly active users just a few months ago. Solana launched their beta in February of 2020. As of today, Phantom, which is their wallet, hit over 3 million users in September of 21, where they were at 500,000. So they roughly just hit 3 million users in a span of about 7 to 8 months. Again, if you look at the timescales and you look at the adoption curves, things are moving here. If you look at, we actually put in a chart here. If you chart out versus the total amount of users in digital assets versus total users of the internet, you can see where we are today. Now, Web3 gaming has a shot at 100 million users. Why? In my opinion, it's because we have a primed user base. 68% or almost 69% of Fortnite players today said they spend money in the game. Now, they spend an average of $85, and the game was launched in 2017. If you look at the amount of days and activity that these players are putting into that game, I call it sweat equity, that's equal to 10.4 million years of playing on Fortnite alone. That's 52 times longer than the humans have lived on the planet. And you can see games, how that's staggered out between Fortnite, World of Warcraft, Overwatch. Gamers game. They love these games. They put sweat equity into these games. Why can they not have ownership of the assets and the time value that they put into these games? In the end, as I said, Web2 players really own nothing. They don't have ownership of the assets. The skins, the artifacts, the land, the NFTs are basically there to offer them a new promise. Again, NFTs are not just punks or Bored Apes. They are asset wrappers of value, of your time, of your sweat equity. These are important pieces to the overall infrastructure. Economic upside. The players who are playing these games can battle. They can go on Twitch. They can go on YouTube. I watch plenty of these. I've got 2 kids. I watch more Mr. Beast videos than you can imagine. But again, that is one of their only primary ways, unless they become one of the few that are esports players and actually can go into the challenges and win. That doesn't happen very often. With Web3, you have the ability to have economic upside, unlike anything that they've seen before. And then interoperability. The idea that you have a game asset, again, it could be something as similar as a skin, say a Super Mario Bros. Avatar, and be able to bring it from a Solana-based game to an Avalanche-based game to a Flow-based game. These are things that cannot happen in Web 2, and they have been restricted to that happening. Last point, and then I have to wrap up, the economic upside. If you look at what's happened out there in terms of unemployment and inflation as relates to some of the countries out there, like South Africa, like Venezuela, like Sudan, these countries are dealing with unbelievable amounts of unemployment and inflationary issues. And just here in the States, we're obviously dealing with inflationary issues today. Gaming in Web3 offers these players an ability to circumvent that lightly as what I call the new chain economy. They have the ability to actually earn, to actually have economic upside, to have a side hustle, unlike driving a Lyft or Uber or an Airbnb. They have an ability to play a game, love that game, put the sweat equity that they're used to putting into that game, and have economic upside. Last thoughts here. This is just the beginning. If you look at data from one of our companies called Blockchain Space, there are over 24,000 guilds in the space right now in Web3. Guilds are a function where they provide the ability for scholars, players around the world that don't have the economic means per se, to participate in Web3 games. There are 24,000 of them. Right now, there are 2 million Discord users right now of these different games and guilds within the space. If you look at the total addressable market of gamers out there of 3 billion plus, 1.5 million players today in Web3 equals, as you can see, 0.05% of the total amount of gamers around the world. What does that mean? Is that there is just the beginning of the story. This is not the end chapter. This is not the end state. This is just the beginning of the story, and those chapters are going to be fun to watch. Anyone wants to reach out to me? Here you go. You can reach me on Twitter also at David Nage. Thank you.